Brothers, sisters, children of Africa, let the truth no longer be whispered in shadows. For too long, a foreign currency has chained us like invisible shackles. The franc CFA, a coin minted in Paris, yet ruling markets in Ouagadougou, Dakar, Bamako. A currency that bleeds us quietly, every second, every trade, every harvest. They told us it was stability. They told us it was partnership. But the hidden truth is this: the CFA is not money. It is a weapon, a colonial gun disguised as gold. For 80 years, France has siphoned our sweat, our gold, our oil through this one instrument. But the empire is cracking. Across Africa, voices rise. From Mali to Niger, from Burkina Faso to Senegal, the people are awakening. They see the chains, and they refuse them. The franc CFA is collapsing, and with it collapses the last mask of French control. This is not economics. This is war, a silent war, fought not with bullets, but with currencies, reserves, and contracts written in Paris. But every empire that feeds on blood and lies must fall. And today we tell France, your time is over. Brothers and sisters, listen closely, for when a nation is enslaved, the chains are not always made of iron. Sometimes they are forged in silence, hidden in the pockets of bankers, in the ink of contracts, in the numbers printed on a foreign coin. That is the franc CFA, the hidden weapon of Paris. When our fathers rose against colonial armies, they thought freedom came with flags, with new anthems, with borders drawn in African hands. But France was clever. They knew the rifle could no longer control us, so they reached for another tool, a deadlier one, because it could not be seen. They created the CFA, a currency that wears the mask of stability but carries the soul of slavery. Imagine this: you toil under the burning sun, you mine gold from the earth, you grow cocoa, you harvest oil, yisao. When you go to trade, the coin in your hand is not truly yours. It is designed in Paris, printed in Paris, and bound by the rules of Paris. Every note is a leash, every coin a chain, every transaction a surrender of power. And so, independence became an illusion. Africa waved her flags, but Paris still counted her money. Our economies became puppets dancing on strings pulled from across the sea. They told us it was partnership, but partnership does not imprison. They told us it was stability, but stability does not starve a people while enriching the colonizer. The franc CFA is not currency. It is colonialism reborn. It is the empire's last fortress, built not with walls, but with numbers and laws. Through it, France siphons not just our wealth, but our sovereignty, our very right to decide our destiny. And now the people are awakening. Across Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, voices thunder. We see your weapon, Paris. We see your trick, and we will break it. For no empire survives once the mask falls. The franc CFA, once hidden, once silent, is now exposed before the world, and what is exposed cannot endure. Africa will not carry these invisible chains any longer. Brothers, sisters, do you know where the heart of Africa beats? It beats in her soil, in the veins of gold that run through Mali, in the rivers of uranium in Niger, in the oil wells beneath Nigeria, in the cocoa fields of Côte d'Ivoire. This wealth is our lifeblood, the proof that Africa was born abundant, that the Creator placed treasure under our feet so we might rise. But tell me, what happens when a people are robbed of their own heart? When the very gold they mine, the very reserves they build, are taken across the sea? This is the betrayal of the franc CFA. For hidden behind this currency is a scandal so monstrous it should shake the world. Our nations, bound to this colonial coin, are forced to store their reserves not at home, not in Africa, but in Paris. Yes, the vaults of France overflow with African gold. Burkina Faso's wealth, Mali's wealth, Senegal's wealth, locked away in foreign chambers guarded by foreign hands. Imagine a farmer who tills his land, harvests his grain, but is told he must store his harvest in the neighbor's barn, and when he is hungry, he must beg for a portion of his own food. This is our reality. We are made beggars at the gates of our own wealth. And with those reserves, France buys influence. With African gold, France props up its own currency, funds its own projects, sustains its own illusion of grandeur. Meanwhile, the African child sits in a dark classroom without books. The African mother waits in a hospital without medicine. The African farmer works without machines, because our riches sleep in Paris, stolen under the disguise of stability. This is not stability. This is theft. This is the continuation of empire by another name. And the greatest crime is not just the gold itself, but the silence around it. They hide it in banking laws, in contracts so technical that ordinary people do not see the robbery happening before their eyes. But the veil is torn now. The youth are awake. They know that every coin stamped with CFA is a reminder of the gold locked in a French vault. And when people rise with knowledge, no vault, no chain, no empire can hold them. The time has come to bring Africa's wealth back to African soil. Our gold must no longer guard French banks. It must build African schools, African hospitals, African futures. My brothers, my sisters, what is the value of money that is not yours? What is the worth of a coin that carries your name but not your soul? The franc CFA, they call it a currency, but it is nothing more than a mask, a fake coin forged not to serve Africa, but to serve the empire that designed it. For decades, they told us the CFA brings stability. But I ask you, stability for whom? Is it stability when the farmer cannot sell his crops at a fair price? Is it stability when the youth flee across deserts and seas because their nations cannot create work for them? No, this is not stability. This is suffocation, wrapped in the language of economics. The cost of a fake currency is written in the hunger of our children, in the debts that chain our nations, in the hospitals that stand empty while gold and oil are shipped away. It is the invisible tax every African pays, not with money, but with blood, with hope, with stolen futures. Think of it. Our economies are tied to France like a prisoner to his jailer. When France sneezes, Africa catches a fever. When the European Central Bank shifts its policies, Africa trembles. We are forced to live not by our own rhythm, but by the heartbeat of a foreign master. This is not economics. This is colonialism with a new face. And the cruelest irony? The CFA countries are among the richest in resources, yet among the poorest in living. We hold diamonds, uranium, cocoa, oil, yet our people suffer shortages because the currency that should empower us has been turned into a leash around our necks. This is the cost of a fake currency, the illusion of independence, the performance of sovereignty, while the substance remains stolen. But every lie has its limit. The youth now see through the mask. They chant in the streets, "Down with the CFA, down with colonial money." For no nation can rise when its lifeblood flows to another. The day Africa buries this fake coin is the day she breathes freely again. And I tell you that day is coming. The empire knows it. France fears it. And Africa awaits it like the rising of the sun after a long night. Brothers and sisters, history does not move by accident. It moves when a people say, enough. For decades, Africa endured the silent chains of the franc CFA. We endured the theft of our gold, the humiliation of begging for our own reserves, the poverty imposed by a fake coin. But now, a storm is rising, and its first thunder was heard in Mali, in Niger, in Burkina Faso. Look closely. It is not only governments that reject the empire, it is the people. The mothers who see their children starve while wealth leaves their soil. The youth who refuse to die in deserts and oceans chasing illusions abroad. The farmers who know their sweat feeds others, but not their own families. These voices have become one, and together they roar, no more. The revolt begins not with bullets, but with truth. The truth that the CFA is not African. The truth that sovereignty is impossible while another nation guards your gold. The truth that independence without control of money is nothing but a flag without meaning. And once truth takes root, no army, no propaganda, no empire can uproot it. Mali broke the silence. Niger joined. Burkina Faso stood firm. And soon other nations will see. The chains are real, but chains can be broken. Paris trembles because they know revolts spread like fire in dry grass. What begins in one corner of Africa will sweep across the continent. This is not just economics. It is a battle for dignity. It is the struggle of a continent declaring, we will not be slaves of numbers written in Paris. The revolt is the rebirth of Africa's soul, the awakening of her giants. And make no mistake, the empire will resist. They will send threats, sanctions, even war. But history teaches us, once a people decide to rise, no empire survives their fire. Yes, brothers, sisters, the revolt has begun. It begins with words, with unity, with courage, and soon it will reshape Africa's destiny. For the night of silence is over, the dawn of resistance has broken, and in the east, I already see the first light of Africa's sunrise. Brothers, sisters, hear me well. Empires do not collapse in silence. They collapse with panic in their eyes, with desperation in their voices, with trembling in their hands. Today, France trembles. The Franc CFA, their hidden weapon, is slipping from their grip. And like every empire before them, they feel the ground breaking beneath their feet. For 80 long years, they believed Africa would never awaken. They thought our people would remain blind, bowing before a fake currency, sending our gold across the sea. But now, as one nation after another rises to reject the CFA, Paris shakes. You can see it in their hurried meetings, in their threats of sanctions, in the way their ministers fly to Africa with words coated in honey, but hearts filled with fear. The empire trembles because their illusion is crumbling. They told the world that Africa was stable under their watch, that the CFA was a gift of progress. But when Mali stood, when Niger rose, when Burkina Faso declared sovereignty, the mask fell. The world began to see the truth, that France's wealth was built on our stolen reserves, that their partnership was chains disguised as cooperation. And what happens when the thief is caught in the act? He does not walk calmly. He trembles. He lashes out. He threatens. He panics. That is France today. They fear the revolt will spread, fear that Senegal, Côte d'Ivoire, and others will follow. And they are right to fear, because revolts are like fire. Once lit, no empire can contain the flames. But brothers, sisters, remember, a trembling empire is a dangerous empire. They will attempt to divide us. They will whisper lies, bribe leaders, unleash propaganda. They may even resort to war. Yet all of this only proves one thing. They know their time is ending. Yes, the empire trembles, but Africa does not. Africa stands taller. Africa breathes deeper. Africa prepares to walk into a future free of chains. Let France tremble. Let the old order collapse. For when the oppressor shakes with fear, it means the oppressed are finally rising with courage. And once Africa rises, no empire, no currency, no chain forged in Paris can stop the march of her sunrise. Brothers, sisters, every night, no matter how long, ends with the coming of the sun. For centuries, Africa's sky was darkened by the shadows of empire, by the weight of chains, by the theft of our wealth. But now, in the horizon, I see it, the first light of our new dawn. This dawn is not given to us. It is seized by our courage, carved from our struggle, lit by the fire of our youth. For the franc CFA, that colonial coin, is collapsing, and with its fall, Africa takes her first breath of true freedom. Imagine it. No longer will our gold sleep in Parisian vaults. No longer will our economies dance to the rhythm of a foreign master. No longer will our children inherit debts written in a language not their own. Instead, Africa begins to dream of her own currency, born on her soil, guided by her own hands. A money that reflects not dependence, but dignity. A money that fuels schools in Bamako, hospitals in Niamey, factories in Ouagadougou. A money that stays here, builds here, circulates here. This is sovereignty. This is what true independence looks like. And we are not alone. Across the globe, new alliances are forming. Africa speaks with BRICS, with nations that also broke their chains, that also resisted empires. Together we design a future where trade is not robbery, but brotherhood, where wealth is not extracted, but shared. The age of standing alone in the dark is ending. We rise as a continent, united, respected. Yes, the empire will curse this dawn. They will call it chaos, instability, rebellion. But we know the truth. They fear the light because their power was born in darkness. They fear the sunrise because they cannot survive in its clarity. Brothers, sisters, remember this. The dawn does not arrive in silence. It arrives with drums of resistance, with voices shouting in the streets, with leaders who refuse to bow. It arrives because we choose it. Africa's new dawn has begun. And as the sun rises, it will burn away the shadows of Paris, the chains of CFA, the lies of empire. The night is over. The day belongs to Africa. Brothers, sisters, You have heard the truth. You have seen the chains, the theft, the trembling of empire, and the rising of our dawn. But this struggle does not end with words. It begins with action. If you believe Africa must rise, let your voice be heard. Share this truth so that no African, no friend of Africa, remains blind to the deception of the franc CFA. Subscribe so that together we build a fortress of knowledge, a community of resistance, a fire that no empire can extinguish. Do not let this message remain only in your heart. Carry it, spread it, let it echo across villages, cities, continents. For our liberation is not the task of one man or one nation, it is the duty of all who dream of freedom. The night is ending, the sun is rising, and you, yes you, Asar, are part of this dawn. Stand with us, speak with us, rise with us, because Africa's story is not over. It is just beginning.